It looks like we do have a couple of attendees. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We are getting everything rolling, and we'll be starting at the top of the hour. And Megan, I just hit the go live on Facebook, so you might just give me a thumbs up when you see it.
I'm checking right now. Hang on just
All right,
a second.
let's see. Next.
I am not seeing it yet.
Oh, let's see here. Okay. Let's see if this works.
Yep, that's working.
Great.
Yep, we've got it.
Excellent. All right. Well, those that are on Facebook, and we have 7 attendees that have joined us. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We'll be kicking off here at the top of the hour. So thank you so much for being here. We'll get started here in a minute. And I am going to share my screen. All right, and team, I should be sharing my screen. Does everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
Great. It looks like we've had a few more people join us. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes. So thanks so much for being here and taking your lunch hour with us. Hi to those that have just joined. We've had a couple more join us in the last couple minutes. We'll be starting here in just a couple minutes, so thank you so much for being here. And to those on Facebook as well, we'll be starting here in just a couple minutes. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section. We are currently at 16 attendees on our Zoom call. So thanks so much for being here with us today. It is at the top of the hour, so we might just give it one more minute and then the team will take over. All right, we are at the top of the hour. We are at 18 attendees. We've had a couple more join. We're going to take care of some housekeeping items first. And so, Kristen, if you want to do that while we give a few more people a few minutes to join, we can get going.
I'd be happy to. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our first town hall. Just some rules and some things to go over real quick. Just so you know, we will have a translator available. Any questions that you have, you can put them in the Q&A box throughout the presentation, so you don't forget what you're needing to ask. By the way, this meeting and the 5:30 will be recorded, and it's part of the open records, but it's also for people who can't join us today. If they have conflicts, they can watch it at a later time. And just a fun thing that we would like to see, if you guys could put your name in the chat box and just put like what part of the city that you're joining us from, we would appreciate that. Kind of see where we're getting people plugging in. And again, we're just happy to have you guys. We're here to educate everybody about the BRT and to put it out there. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason here.
Hey, thanks, Kristen. Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Fairbrush. I'm the administrator and director for Embark, the City of Oklahoma City's Public Transportation and Parking Department. Many of you might be familiar with us. Some of you may not, but our governing body is actually the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority. And COTPA as a entity has actually been providing public transportation and public parking services since 1966. So certainly been around and been in the business for a while, if you will. So definitely wanted to, again, thank you for joining the meeting and welcoming you here to our Bus Rapid Transit / Northwest Bus Rapid Transit Corridor virtual town hall. I guess really what I'd like to say in my opening comments are a couple of things. One is that today's meeting, I think you're going to, in fact, I'm confident you're going to find is going to be very informative, whether you've been following the project a little bit or maybe the project's completely new to you. But I think it's important to note that today's event is really a continuation of some past outreach efforts that we've done. And as the project progresses, we will do more of these outreach efforts because our goal really is to try to keep our entire community informed, particularly those businesses and residents along the corridor. And we want to answer questions. So Kristen had suggested a way for you to be able to ask questions. So feel free to ask away. We're looking forward to answering any questions you have. As far as the format of the presentation goes today, or the format of the meeting, we're going to have about a 20 to 30 minute presentation that's going to be led by our consultant team and staff. And then we're going to try to allow 20 to 30 minutes of time answering questions. If we don't get to your question, we're going to make sure, if we don't get to your question live, we'll make sure that we get to your question and post a response on the project website at a later date. So I'm going to wrap up my opening remarks, but before I do, I thought it was maybe important just to give you guys a little bit of background on this project, because really I believe the Northwest Bus Rapid Transit Corridor is a great example of how our board, City Council, the FTA continue to support transit in our community and in our region. And it's really an example of how we've been able to, with that backing, successfully incrementally implement some of our plans and studies from years past. So this Northwest Bus Rapid Transit Corridor that we're looking at today actually kind of originated back in a study that we did in 2005. It was a fixed guideway study. This was one of the most prevalent corridors in terms of opportunity for some type of rapid transit. We followed that up with a concept plan in 2015, working with our partners at OU's Institute for Quality Communities. The project was also accepted into a U.S. Department of Transportation Health and Planning program. So with all that said, there's been a lot of work and a lot of thought that's went into the project at this point, and it really kind of culminated in us, the city and COTPA being awarded a $14 million grant from the Department of Transportation, a build grant that you'll hear a little bit more about. So that's a little bit of background. Again, just the idea is this is a project we've been working on a while, and looking forward to seeing it through to construction and revenue service. So with that, I would like to take a minute to introduce to you Jesse Rush. He is the Assistant Director of Operations for Embark. He's also the BRT project lead, and some of you may know him best for his role with Oklahoma City Streetcar. He was instrumental in leading the launch of the Oklahoma City Streetcar and then the continued management of that modern streetcar service that we now have in Oklahoma City. So Jesse, can you take it from here?
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, so just kind of adding on to what Jason mentioned about the 2005 2030 fixed guideway plan, and then in 2015 the form of that focus group that helped develop the corridor. You know, since then, Embark has continued working with the different city departments to ensure really a comprehensive and complete project. Some of those different city departments that we worked with have been Public Works, who have helped manage the engineering of the project and coordination with other city construction projects such as sidewalks, trails, bike infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure, and other roadway improvements. Embark has also worked really closely with Oklahoma City's planning department to make sure that, you know, the currently planned projects and also future projects and initiatives will work well with one another to continue the idea of, you know, really what Embark is focusing on is really a multi-modality connections between our sidewalks, pedestrians, cyclists, and trail projects. We've also been working closely with the city's traffic engineering department to ensure improvements along the corridors, not only improve public transit access, but, you know, also safety for all that use our roadways. And then community outreach has continued throughout the project with the development of our BRT project stakeholder work group and community workshops that were held to seek input on the concept plan. And, you know, we plan to continue that outreach by holding public meetings such as this and other meetings into the future. Kristen Torkelson, who you just heard from, and you'll hear a little more from her later, she'll be reaching out and coordinating with those along or near the corridor for continued input and to provide information as the project progresses. You know, Embark's just really excited to bring another form of transportation options to the residents of Oklahoma City. So we're excited to have this work group here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Comer with HNTB.
Thank you, Jesse. As mentioned, we'll give about a 20 to 30 minute presentation, an overview So if you're not familiar with what BRT is, Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT, is a high-quality bus-based transit system that delivers fast and reliable and efficient service operating in a rail-like manner. So one of the things that you'll note throughout the presentation is you'll see many of the characteristics that you see with an Oklahoma City streetcar, except for the vehicle happens to be a bus. So in terms of vehicles, the Northwest BRT service will use specially branded vehicles that will be distinct from the rest of the Embark fleet. And it will also provide amenities to improve customer service. The BRT fleet, the Northwest BRT fleet, will include 7 operating vehicles and 2 spares for a total of 9 vehicles within the fleet. The Northwest BRT platforms will include level boarding, similar to OKC streetcar. And this significantly improves boarding and alighting times, as you can see from anybody that's used the streetcar service. The Northwest BRT will be Central Oklahoma's first BRT line, and it will provide customers with fast and frequent service. The BRT will expand local and regional mobility options. It will improve jobs access, and it will enhance livability along the corridor. And those were central hallmarks of the concept plan and the previous planning efforts that were completed a few years back. So the design effort is heavily dependent upon those previous planning efforts, including the Northwest Multimodal Concept Plan, or the concept plan that Jesse referred to. And the concept plan, one of the things that we want to note is it included extensive public outreach and really defined the preliminary routing, the stop locations, improved pedestrian and bicycle access were a key part of those plans, as well as connectivity to existing Embark routes and key activity centers along the Northwest corridor. The project is funded in part through a US DOT BUILD grant. BUILD stands for Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. BUILD is a federal $1.5 billion competitive discretionary grant program, and it funds a wide variety of construction projects, including transit. The project budget is approximately $28.8 million. 50% of the project is funded through the federal BUILD grant, and 50% through GeoBond, Better Street Safer City funds, and other federal grants. So, we described what BRT system is. Specifically, the Northwest BRT system will include technology enhancements, including transit signal priority, or TSP, real-time arrival displays at each station. It will include dedicated bus pull-offs to improve system reliability and safety. It will include improved service frequency. So a BRT bus will arrive every 15 minutes in the peak period at stations. As I mentioned before, it will include branded vehicles and level boarding platforms. And the Northwest BRT line is approximately 8 miles one way and would include 16 platform pairs and 3 potential park and rides. So the Northwest BRT stations, as I noted before, will be similar to the OKC streetcar stations, as you can see here. Each BRT station will include a raised platform for level boarding, and it will include ADA ramps at each end of the platform. The platform itself and all amenities will be ADA accessible. Each platform will include ADA compliant detectable warning strips at the boarding and alighting areas, as well as the ramps and a portion of the sidewalk facing the street. And it will also include a railing on the back side of the platform as well. The platform will include a shelter with seating and a branded pylon. The pylon is a significant component of the project, just like with streetcar, and it will be visible from a significant distance, and it will serve as a landmark and wayfinding for pedestrian and cyclists that are looking for a BRT stop. The pylon will also include a real-time information display, just like OKC streetcar, and this lets riders know when the next bus is arriving. It also can provide additional information for transit customers and potentially advertising as well. Each station will include a ticket kiosk, and this allows customers to purchase the fare prior to boarding the bus, just like the OKC streetcar. Each station will include a litter receptacle with a lock and at least one bike rack. We would like to include 2 bike racks at each station, and we're trying to include those where feasible or where they could be accommodated based upon site constraints. And the shelter will also be illuminated, as well as will provide additional lighting for the platform to improve user safety, obviously, at the stations as well. So lighting was an important component of this, and we wanted to make sure that we were providing a safe atmosphere and an inviting atmosphere. So this included not just lighting the areas around the shelter, but for the platform and the approach for the station as well. The Northwest BRT alignment will run mainly along the Northwest Expressway and Classen Boulevard, and the route serves 3 hospitals, several residential neighborhoods, and provides an important connection to downtown. The Northwest BRT is really designed to serve relatively high employment and population density. And if you want to go to the next slide. A couple of things that we wanted to note, and this was identified early in the concept plan in terms of the development of the route. This route comes within a half mile of 91,000 jobs, which is about 23% of Oklahoma City's employment base. So significant employment, not just within the downtown, which it connects to, but there are significant employment activity centers along the corridor. So those connections are key in terms of defining this route. The route will also come within a half mile of more than 40,000 residents, but most importantly, it provides the ability through a park and ride opportunities to serve the growing Northwest region. So as you can see the map here, in terms of the significant population densities within the region, the Northwest BRT alignment really transects that corridor, provides immediate access to the residents, obviously, that live along the corridor, but within park and ride opportunities, there's a significant opportunity to provide connections to the downtown core and the remainder of the corridor for all of that population that lives within that Northwest area. So I'm going to transition here to Marcus, but I just wanted to provide a reminder for anybody that may have joined within the last few minutes or didn't have a chance to at the beginning of the call to log on. We will be answering questions following the presentation, so please use the chat box to type your question into the chat, and we will answer those following the meeting. So I'll go ahead and turn it to Marcus, who will go through the alignment and the stop locations.
Thanks, thanks, Brian, and want to again welcome those that have joined us since the beginning. We're up to 40 participants now throughout the metro. So welcome and thank you for giving your lunch today. As Brian said, we're going to walk kind of through the overall route. Generally, you can see on the map over there, the purple route. The yellow dot will continue to move along with us, so it'll help you orientate yourself where we're at in the metro. And generally speaking, the loop will start downtown. We'll work up to Classen, and then up Classen and down Northwest Expressway, ending at the Northwest Expressway and Meridian kind of intersection area. As we transition now, each of these locations, you'll see sidewalk improvements. You'll see signal improvements to many of these locations to get the BRT riders from the platform back to the closest intersection. On Classen, just as a general, from 10th to 16th, you'll see bike lane accommodations. Riders are able to use the bike rack at each of the stations, like Brian had illustrated earlier, or be able to get their bike on the bus. Now they'll have the ability to get from the northwest part of Oklahoma City to downtown, connecting to streetcar, and in many cases they're able to use the existing OKC trail network. So like Brian said, there's 32 stops here. We'll cover some of them in pairs as we go through, but we'll go through them pretty quickly here. So diving right in. So starting here at Broadway and Main, southbound on Broadway in front of the Bank First building. The station, as you see there on the left, north is actually to your right on the left side map. The station is in the existing location where the vehicles park on the street today. Continuing on now to Robinson and Park. You're northbound on Robinson. Again, north is to the right. Again, the station, the platform will be located in where the street parking is today. The bus will pull up to the level boarding, load and unload, and continue on. As we continue up Robinson now, we'll make a quick stop at the transit center. You'll see here that the both inbound and outbound stations are here. Leveraging that existing canopy that's there today, reconfiguring what's under the canopy. While Brian showed you all of the amenities and discussed all of them, they've been a little bit different arrangement, trying to work within the existing space under the canopy, but all of the same amenities that he described earlier will be here at the transit center. So we'll continue now up to Hudson and 8th. This station is for the bus that is southbound or inbound, and it's right in front of Elemental Coffee. Again, the platform will be located in the existing street parking. And again, the bus will make a quick stop, load, unload, and then carry on with the route. So as we continue up Hudson and make a left and go west on 10th, here we're at 10th Street between Lee and Dewey. You'll see both pairs of the stations here are directly across from each other, right out in front of St. Anthony Hospital. There's an existing mid-block crossing that we're able to use that infrastructure to where folks can cross the street here as well. Carry on now, we head west to get to Classen, and now we've kind of made the turn to go majority up Classen. So here at 13th is kind of a unique location because what's not shown here is there is a bike lanes project that comes up to 10th. This project will continue the bike lanes from 10th to 16th, and then there's another project that's on the north side of 16th of working with the bike lanes. Today, the outside lane of Classen is underutilized from a vehicle standpoint. And so turning that outside lane into a bike lane that's a 6-foot bike lane with a 3-foot buffer to the traffic lane. You'll see also in pink here on the kind of the left side of the map, working with the on-queue development site that's just off the kind of the upper left or the southwest quadrant there of 13th and Classen, removing the slip lane, and still working with that development as both our design and their design progresses. So another unique thing about 13th and Classen is similar to streetcar at 4th and Robinson. As the bike lane approaches the platform, you can see that the bike lane will go behind the station to prevent that crossing conflict with a potential bus that could be pulling up and somebody on a bike. So as we continue now to Classen and 18th, you're just south of 18th here. Both the inbound and outbound station are on the south side. You can see here for 17th, the inbound or southbound station there, providing a ADA crossing then to get back to the sidewalk that allows you to get to 18th. And then on the outbound side, right outside of Homeland Grocery here, kind of in that concrete area, providing the outbound station. Continuing on to 23rd, this location here is expected to have high ridership because of the adjacent traditional bus routes that cross here. And therefore, these stations will actually have 2 shelters, 2 benches, and then 2 ADA staging areas, just to anticipate of that high ridership. The focus here, you can tell we're reworking some of the intersection to provide for ADA crossings. So really working with the crosswalks, the ramps, the ADA compliant, to make this a safe to get from the station to the intersection. We'll continue now on to 30th. Both of these stations here are on the south side of 30th. On the outbound, southbound, or inbound side, my apologies, you'll see it's a standard station. The northbound or outbound station, we're still working on property location there to exactly locate that station, but generally it'll be in this station area. Continuing on to 36. So both stations here are on the far side of the intersection. So as folks approach, they're on the far side, again, providing connections back to the existing intersection here that is ADA compliant. Continuing on to 42nd. The outbound station location is still pending in this location, but The unique area here with 42nd and Classen on the northwest quadrant here, the upper side of the map, is New View. You know, we're assisting visually impaired folks. So we want to make really certain that we've got a clear and safe way for folks to cross Classen to get to New View and use both the inbound and outbound stations here. So we're still working with Public Works to understand if the most feasible route, whether that's a mid-block crossing like what's shown here, or a full signal at 42nd and Classen. We'll go north on Classen now, and we'll make the turn onto Northwest Expressway. Here we're just on the east side of Blackwelder, and to return everybody, north is now up on the map of the actual station. So what you see here is an actual pull off of Northwest Expressway to get the bus out of traffic, location for them to move over, pull up to the platform, safely load and unload, and then giving them adequate distance to get back up to speed and find that gap to merge back in with the Northwest Expressway traffic. You'll see on the bottom left a sidewalk that connects you back to the intersection at Blackwelder. The next part here is on the outbound side of Blackwelder. So there you can see the full intersection kind of reworking the crosswalks. And then the outbound station has a similar approach where it's a bus pull off where the bus can get out of traffic, load, unload, and then safely get back into traffic. Again, having a sidewalk here that connects back to the existing intersection. So as we continue now to Northwest Expressway and Penn, similar concept here with the bus pull off, but this is one of the locations that Jesse had referenced earlier, you know, working with Public Works and knowing that they've got a future lane expansion in the future on Northwest Expressway here, making sure that we're building that infrastructure of the platform in the right location. So we're not having to pick it up and move it or reconstruct it, you know, farther away from the roadway. So here you'll see again, a sidewalk connection back to Penn. And there are several locations in this area that we're considering or working with property owners for a park and ride, which Brian will get into later. So as we continue to the other side of Penn, this is the inbound station. Again, there's a future right turn lane that is planned here. So making sure we've got the bus far enough away that we're not having to reconstruct this again. Again, it'll give it plenty of adequate room, pull out of traffic and get back into traffic safely. So as we continue now, we'll make a quick jog off of Northwest Expressway and go to south on Independence. This location here, you can see the pair of stations. They're directly out in front of Integris Hospital. And so you can see that red line on there is a retaining wall with the aggressive slope down to the parking lot, but leveraging the existing crossing, the mid-block crossing that's there that they use today. And both of these are standard stations. So we'll continue south and then turn and go west on 56th. So just prior to Portland, the inbound station's located just off, I guess just on, both of them are on 56th. You can see on the north side of the road there, you'll see the connection back to the existing intersection and some of the improvements at the existing intersection to make all four quadrants ADA compliant. So you'll see also here, there's the existing trail network that comes south down Portland and then goes east on 56th. So providing a key connections to both of those trail networks from both of the platforms. So we'll continue up Portland. So here we're just south of Northwest Expressway in Portland. So this would be the outbound or inbound station. A sidewalk that comes from the trail along Northwest Expressway and then connects to the station that's just south here on Portland. The pair station is just on the other side. We go to the next slide. On the other side on Northwest Expressway. Again, similar format that we talked about earlier on all of our stations on Northwest Expressway with the pull-off area for the bus and the rider safety there. Again, connecting sidewalk back to the intersection for safe pedestrian access. We'll turn the corner here and head down 63rd. So 63rd, again, the station that's shown on the south side of 63rd. Again, direct connection right to the existing trail network. And then the one that's actually shown on Meridian, we're still working with the property owner to understand whether that's going to be on Meridian or actually be on 63rd, but generally that station will be in this location. Both of these stations tie directly to, or will have sidewalk that connects to the existing trail network. And our last location here is at Northwest Expressway. So we've gone up Meridian, crossed over Northwest Expressway, and here just on the north side here at the Water Trust property. This station location will be in this general area. Where again, we're working with the developer in this area to understand kind of the overall plan for this area. But again, coordinating with them to understand how the bus is going to turn around, the potential park and ride location here, and then how this all works with the mixed use development that's also consistent here. Again, you see direct connection to the existing trail network. Another one that's unique about this location is, again, because it's the end of the line or the beginning of the line, knowing that we're going to have high ridership here, park and ride, lots of things would draw a lot of riders here. Again, you'll see 2 shelters, 2 benches, and 2 ADA staging areas in high anticipation. With that, I'll turn it back to Brian to talk about the park and ride considerations and our overall schedule.
Thank you, Marcus. Again, as we noted, in addition to the 32 stations or 16 pair, there's also 3 potential park and ride locations that have been identified. So we don't have a lot of detail on those because there's some coordination and ongoing discussions with property and business owners. But the park and ride locations would include dedicated striping and signing for park and ride customers. So it would provide a connection to each of those stations. As well as those amenities that we had noted. The concept plan identified, obviously, an end of the line was very important. So obviously we'll develop something there at that Northwest and Meridian location in terms of a park and ride, but there's some other locations that we've identified, and we've got some ongoing discussions as part of the design effort. So we're just looking at 3 potential locations as of now. In terms of the schedule, and I think we had a question in our comment box that was answered in terms of the overall schedule and when the service would be open. So right now, we just finalized our preliminary engineering last year and kicked off a final designer engineering this year within 2021. And final design will go through early 2022. With the planned start of construction about mid 2022. And most importantly, the end of construction will be about mid 2023. The service obviously will include an integration and testing period, obviously, and it's anticipated that the service will open up in the fall or late 2023. So with that, what we'll do, that's the end of our presentation. And we will open it up to questions. So Kristen, I don't know if you want to go ahead and kind of walk through the process here.
Sure. So if you all have any questions, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So if you could please submit them that way, and then we will be answering them live. And also too, like if you all think of anything after the fact, you can always email me. That is not a problem. I do want to go back to one that Lexi posted in the chat box first. The question is, will BRT interface with Dell City and Midwest City transit routes? Jason, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Well, this BRT corridor that we're looking at now, of course, just serves within Oklahoma City limits, right along Classen and Northwest Expressway. But it does connect, of course, to the overall Embark fixed route bus network. And that was, I don't know if we got into it in the presentation, but that was another, I guess, appealing part of this corridor is that we have a lot of connections to existing fixed route bus routes along this corridor. So all that to say that there's connections to the larger bus system. As you know, we do have a route that does serve Midwest City, Route 15. So there is the connection there. There is not a, I mean, this corridor obviously won't serve Dell City or Midwest City with bus rapid transit. Now, on the flip side of that, and a little bit outside the scope of this project, as you know, or as you may know, the Regional Transportation Authority of Central Oklahoma, RTA, now that organization is looking at additional commuter corridors that would complement our Northwest BRT, and one of those commuter corridors does serve Midwest City and Dell City, of course, both being participating member cities of the RTA. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to add a follow-up there.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Our next question is from David. His question is, how will a pedestrian and walk to the stop on the west side of Classen, south of the Chili's restaurant, currently totally fenced off? There's no sidewalk, which forces pedestrians into the roadway while walking south towards Northwest Expressway. Brian,
Kristen,
do you want to that one?
oh, Kristen, do you mind if I start that one and then hand it off to Brian? Because I really appreciate the question, and I think that question is a great opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about the scope of the project, right? And so when you're putting together projects like this, right? I mean, scopes can be endless, so to speak, right? We want to connect to everything we can possibly connect to, but eventually we have to manage and develop the scope so that it fits our budget. And for the most part, what we have tried to, I guess, engineer and budget into this project is connections to existing infrastructure. So you heard Marcus reference a lot of connections we're making to existing trails and to existing sidewalks. I think Marcus also talked a little bit about how, all of our platforms would at least have AD accessibility and sidewalk connections to the nearest intersection. So that's for the, generally speaking, that's our approach in building and adding new sidewalks that haven't been constructed before, which makes it, again, within the scope and budget of this project, pretty difficult for us to go all the way to that Chili's that's being referenced north of Northwest Expressway. That's actually one of our top bus stops on Route 5, so we're very familiar with that area. But I thought, again, thank you for the question, because I think that's a great opportunity to just kind of hopefully let everybody know the scope of the project and those connections. So Brian, can you want to take it from here or speak specifically?
Yeah, I was just going to say I did write that down, and we do have we have a obviously a technical working group meeting with the city and all departments to discuss how this eventually ties into future improvements. So it's definitely something that we could note and pass on and offer that as part of the coordination, because obviously a significant component of the project all the way back to the concept plan was to improve the pedestrian and bicycle environment overall. And obviously, we have a fixed budget based upon what we had shown from the build grant and local funds. But I think it's an ongoing discussion with the team in terms of how do we tie in with future improvements and what other types of considerations should we be thinking about as a result of implementing this BRT.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Brian and Jason.
Yep.
Our next question is again from N. Lexi. She said, are there any plans to electrify or otherwise improve BRT's carbon footprint and future cost reduction? Jesse Rush, would you like to take this?
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, another great question. So we are, Embark is obviously, our carbon footprint and future cost reductions are super, super important to us. We actually have just received our very first electric bus with receiving an FTA grant. For our project for the Northwest BRT, we'll be running 40-foot CNG buses, so low emission buses for the Northwest BRT. But we're always looking at ways to improve our carbon footprint, and so in the future we are looking at ordering additional electric buses. But for this project particularly, we'll be running 40-foot CNG buses, low emission buses. Thank you. Great question.
Thank you. Next question is from
Hey.
Marty.
Kristen, I'm sorry. Can I back up, and if Jesse, if you don't mind, just add a little bit to that. If if you're not real familiar with the price and the process of purchasing heavy duty transit buses, the electric buses are approximately half. Electric buses are approximately twice the cost of a normal CNG bus. And then you also have to fund the charging infrastructure. So again, I just wanted to add that to the discussion, because we did basically have discussions or analysis of both options. But again, it comes back to a budget item for us with this particular corridor.
Good point. Okay, next question from Marty. What do we expect fares to be? Jason, do you want to do kind of the fare analysis explanation?
Yeah, I don't mind. Sure, I'll start, and then if Jesse could add to it. But from as the administrator for Embark, I'm always cautious to defer to the board. Anytime we're dealing with fares, that's really a policy decision. So I can't sit here today and say exactly what the fares are going to be. Ideally, we want to make this transportation as affordable as we possibly can. We want to be able to serve our existing customer base, and we want to make it so affordable that we'll be able to attract new transit customers to the system. But I know Jesse we went through this process, kind of when establishing the streetcar fares as well. So do you want to kind of take it from here and add anything to our fare consideration?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So like Jason said, back in 2016, 2017, we did a fare analysis for our entire system to help develop a policy for, adding service, increasing possible fare prices, things like that. That was approved by our board. But, also like Jason said, we're anticipating taking this decision, the final decision, to our board. However, we are anticipating that the fares will be close to what our, or the same as what our normal bus system is, which is $1.75 for a single trip adult fare, or 75 cents for a single trip reduced, or free for children 6 and under. Great question. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Next question is from Byron. He says, trail network ? I'm not from Oklahoma City. Jesse, do you want to talk about kind of like the multi-mobility aspect of this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so Byron, another great question. So the trail network that we discussed during the project outline there is essentially talking about the MAPS 3 trail program. So the MAPS program is essentially a 1-cent sales tax that helped fund capital improvement projects throughout Oklahoma City. And that program developed several different trail networks throughout all of Oklahoma City. It was a $39.5 million project. It constructed the West River Trail that was completed in 2015. Constructed the Will Rogers Trail that was completed in 2018, and then the Lake Draper Trail that was completed in 2019. So, along the BRT, there's several different connections to those trails, one of them being the stops there along 56th and Meridian, and then also with the end of the line, or the terminus point there at Northwest Expressway and Meridian. So with those trail connections, there's also specifically the one at Northwest Expressway and Meridian, there's a trail connection that can take you, all the way south to the Oklahoma River, or it can take you north to Lake Hefner. And you can actually, so you could essentially, you're living downtown, you could load your bike onto the front rack of the BRT bus, take it all the way to Northwest Expressway and Meridian, take your bike, ride around Lake Hefner, enjoy the amenities out there at Lake Hefner, and then turn around and use the BRT system to get back home downtown. So we're super excited about all the different connections that Jason talked about, with the sidewalk connections, the connections with other bus routes, and then also with the different trail connections. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The next one is from an anonymous attendee. The question is, will there be a northbound outbound station at Hudson and Northwest 8th? If not, why not? Brian, you want to take that one?
Yes, so we looked at that station location, and it's something that we're evaluating, based upon the proximity of the other stations. And we have that federal property there. So that is a question that came up and something that we're evaluating. I don't know, Marcus, if you had anything to add to that, but that is something that the project team is looking at and discussing. I think it falls under the component of we're doing some coordination and some discussions ongoing for that in terms of looking at that potential location, but we're balancing the constraints of that side with the ability and the ability to connect to the stations just to the north and south.
I think you covered it, Brian. Nothing to add.
Okay. Good
Yep.
question, though.
Brian, if I could add just a little
Yes.
bit to that.
Mhm.
So, the whole intent of the designing of our stations is to maintain that couplet system, right? So if you use the BRT to get to a certain stop and you get off the stop, you don't have to look around to find where your other stop would be to be able to go back home or where you came from. So with this stop, particular with the federal property just adjacent to the inbound stop, like you said, Brian, we're looking at options there. But again, the whole idea is to design our system with the couplet of the stops.
Right.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Facebook from Karina. Have you considered where there are pullouts, specifically at Blackwelder, but maybe other locations, to keep them upstream of a traffic signal so they can have a queue jump signal? If not, will drivers let the buses back in? Brian, do you want to take that?
Yes, and then I'll let Marcus chime in as well. So we're really looking at using those in conjunction with transit signal priority. And wherever possible, we like to have those queue jumps after the intersection so that we could use the transit signal priority to get the vehicle through the intersection. However, there are some locations that they have some significant constraints in terms of that station location. So it's really a balancing of driving all of those things. But you're absolutely right. That's something that we're thinking about in terms of the design is how do we pair those physical infrastructure improvements like the bus pull-offs in conjunction with transit signal priority and making sure that we're coordinating that with traffic flow. I don't know, Marcus, if you had anything to add to that.
No, and the only thing I'll add to that is there are, specific locations. The additional one that, that we're using, the transit signal priority is the turn from Classen onto Northwest Expressway, where we're using a right turn lane queue jump, where they can go from the right lane and turn left across everybody else stopped. So we are considering all of those check in, check out for the bus to make sure they do have a safe way to get back into the moving traffic.
This might be a good opportunity, not to get into, a lot of detail, but Jesse, if you don't mind, maybe speaking about just the terms of number of signals we're looking at adding traffic signal priority to, and then maybe even discuss a little bit of the testing we've done. And we've actually field tested some of the distances that we'll need for those pull-off lanes, if you will, with existing transit vehicles. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so there are approximately 36 signalized intersections along our Northwest BRT route. So we'll be looking at making improvements at all of those intersections, which those improvements would include the transit signal prioritization that was talked about. For those that don't really know that much about transit signal prioritization, so essentially what that is basically we add some hardware and software to our signals, and as the bus is approaching a signalized intersection, if the signal is green, the signal will hold for the bus, allowing the bus to travel through the intersection and to the nearest stop. Or if the signal is red, as the bus is approaching that signal, the signal will receive a signal from the bus that lets the signal know that the bus is approaching, and it will essentially go from red. It'll cycle through the cycle to give the bus the green light as quickly as possible. Again, allowing that bus to travel through that intersection as quickly as possible. We've implemented this on the streetcar. When we first launched the streetcar, we were seeing our round trip times being approximately an hour and 5 minutes. We kind of phased in. We saw the signals that were giving us the longest hold times. And so our first phase, we went in and we installed 5 TSP units in those signals. And we saw our round trip times go from approximately an hour and 5 minutes down to about 45 minutes. And so with that improvement, we saw that we needed to continue to improve by installing the TSP. So again, we continued to phase that into the system. And right now, our original round trip time was an hour and 5 minutes. We've been able to cut that down to approximately 35 minutes. So significant improvements with our round trip times on the streetcar. We anticipate to see those improvements on the Northwest BRT using the TSP. Hope I answered that question there, Jason.
Thanks, Jesse.
Okay, next question is from Facebook. Will the token transit app be usable for the BRT instead of using the kiosk for every trip? Jesse, would you like that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, so the kiosk will certainly be there to allow people to use coins or dollar bills or credit cards. But absolutely, the token transit app will be usable for the BRT. The token transit app will be usable for the BRT, the streetcar, and our regular bus routes. Our hope is to make it easy for our riders to be able to use our service. So with the mobile app, the token transit app, we see that as a great addition to the Northwest BRT. So yes, absolutely, the token transit app will be usable for the BRT.
And I'll add to that too, just in case some are wondering, well, if token transit is available, why would you have a kiosk too? And it really just goes to trying to serve anybody in our community that wants to use our system, right? We know that some of our customers, they prefer, or perhaps they only do business via cash, right? So we have to have a way to be able to accept cash, whether it's on BRT, whether it's with streetcar, whether it's with regular fixed route bus service. So we want to encourage everyone that uses our system, please use the token transit app. It is the easiest way to use our system. It allows for us to keep our buses do a better job of keeping our buses on schedule, because there's very little time spent at the fare box. So yeah, we really want to push and encourage people to use the token transit app, but we, at least at this time, will always have a cash option available to our customers.
Okay, thank you. Question from Byron. How late will the service run? Jason, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I sure will. I'll start and let Jesse add to it. But I mean, basically, we're looking at running from 5 to 6 in the morning till at least midnight on most days. There might be some options on Fridays and Saturdays, similar to how we run streetcar, where we actually run till 2 a.m. I mean, that exact service profile is still being evaluated. But I mean, the short of it is we want to be there as early as we possibly. We want to be out there providing the service as early as it makes sense to do that, and stay as late as we possibly can. And on our current fixed route bus service, we're having more and more success in adding routes, at least to be able to keep service out till midnight. And I would expect at least that with the BRT.
Yeah, and Jason, just to add to that, so exactly like Jason said, we're looking to make this as convenient to everyone as we possibly can. But just to kind of add to it is that, Embark is currently in the process of doing a comprehensive operational analysis, as essentially looking at our entire system, right? That is not just looking at our routes, but also our run times and things like that. So we want to make sure that what we do at the BRT aligns with what we do at the streetcar and also what we do with our normal everyday bus service. So it's I guess it's essentially still up in the air, but again, we want to make it as easy to use for the residents of Oklahoma City as possible.
Brt and Jordan.
Okay, I have a question from Georgie. She said, I'm glad to see the trash cans at the bus stops, but who is in charge of emptying them? I know this has been a problem before. Jesse, you want that one?
I'll take that one, thanks. So Embark's actually in the process of improving that service. We recognize that there has been some issues in the past, but we also recognize that we got to do better. So we're in the process of improving that. So Embark will take on the removal of the trash. And we're looking at hiring additional service techs that would essentially be in charge of maintaining our stations, right? So that includes the trash removal. That would include within a certain area around the bus stops, mowing the grass, making sure that the platforms are cleared, snow removal at the platforms, making sure that the glass is clean, that the informational pylons are working. Yeah, so we understand the past and are looking forward to the future with taking care of our platforms.
Thank you. We have time for about one more question. So Brett said, how far along are your preparations for a park and ride lot and a circle turnaround at the end of the line?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, sorry, Kristen, you didn't assign it to anybody.
You get it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so great question. So again, we just wrapped up our 30% design. So we're in the process of communicating with the owners of that property. The owners of the property is actually the Oklahoma City Waters Utility Trust. And so we're working with them to develop a lease agreement to be able to use that asphalt parking lot that's currently there as a park and ride location. And then we're also in the process of surveying right now it's currently kind of shaped like a triangle or a diamond. And we're looking at surveying that additional work right there to be able to provide for that roundabout turnaround on the north side of Northwest Expressway on Meridian. So to officially answer your question, we are just wrapped up our 30% design and moving toward our 65% design, which would include the park and ride lot and the circle turnaround at the end of the line.
Great, thank you. That basically wraps up our Q&A time. Do you want to go to the last slide of the presentation? Thank you. So I'm in charge of all of the community outreach here at Embark. So if you guys have any questions, this is my direct email address. This is my cell number. I'm also happy to give any kind of presentations regarding the BRT project. I'll come speak to neighborhood associations, businesses, any other organizations that you feel like need to learn about this. My whole job is to educate everybody because we want to make sure that people know the difference between the fixed route and the BRT. It's all about connectivity. And so I want to get out there as much as possible. So if you guys want me to come speak, please email or call me. We really appreciate you all attending today. We appreciate your time. And again, this was recorded. So if you know of somebody who missed it and maybe can't attend the 5:30, there will be a link that we can send. And then, if other people can't attend the 5:30, let people know. So that's all we have for today. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.